Okay, so I'm supposed to update you on DNA. How many of you here was here last year when Roy updated on DNA? Not too many, good. Roy's on the more technical side. I'm not going to do that because I don't know that much about it. But I'm going to tell you what I know about this matrix. This is all Y DNA. This is a little bit technical, but Y DNA only passes father, son, 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 son. Okay, autosomal DNA goes through the woman and the man. And so if you really want to learn what we're trying to learn, and that is, who is Joseph's daddy? Joseph is our brick wall. We got it all documented back to him. Facts are there. We can prove it with documents. But we don't know who his daddy is for sure. So that's what we're trying to learn. And to learn that, you use Y DNA. Because the other, especially if you go back 7 or 8 generations, is just not helpful for genealogy purposes. So it started out with Roy, the guy you met last year, and myself, and we took the Y700. But now we have 27 people across the bottom here. These 27 people have taken the Y DNA. We know who most of those are, and most of them are likable enough people, as they would be. They're Robertsons. And so they all come up to this common ancestor up here, RA12400. No, we don't know what his name is. He's a mutation in the genetic DNA. He was born about 1616, give or take 100 years. We will probably never know what his name is, but that's okay. All 27 of those come up to some place and they hit their brick wall. And everybody, when they get that brick wall, they get very frustrated. They want to know the daddy, the next daddy, right? And they'll do things like, well, he's living in the census right next door to this guy. That must be his daddy. And so they put it in their tree and they go right on up to Charlie, Maine or wherever, you know. You shouldn't do that. That's called jumping a creek and then declaring it to be a fact. Some of them will jump the Mississippi River and declare it a fact. But we don't want to do that. So these that are listed in green, those are proven with documents. We know all these people, Galen Roberts, right over Jesse Joseph, my Joseph, William, Moses, John, all green going down is documented, proven fact. The red names that I put here is my speculation, and I'll get to that later. This area within this red here is what I'm trying to stay focused on and not get over here. These people were Tories in the Revolution. We don't even want to claim them, but they're Robertsons. That was a joke. And over here, Roy goes back up here. These guys got to go all the way back to 1616 before they can ever find anybody. So they got a tough road to go. But we're over here, and we know a lot about these folks. I'm just looking to see. No, there's no one. Troy and Larry are not here. All these blue numbers are mutations in the DNA strand. Mutation is just, there's 3, Jim help me, I forget what they're called. There's 3 designators, and they go in a certain order on 1 billion or something strand. On this long strand of DNA, there's over 1 billion pairs, I call it, although 3 of them, pairs. And when one of those gets out of order from what it's supposed to be, they can detect that, and that's called a mutation. So we know that this guy right here, whatever his name is, in about 1616, give or take 100 years, he had this mutation. Now every son after that's going to have that mutation. So this son, here's a son here, here's a son here, here's a son here, and 2 over here. So maybe up to 5 sons, but for sure 2. This big one here, this big one here. For sure 2 sons. So they come down here for 3 more generations and they get this mutation. Over here, come down a couple, 3 generations, and they get this mutation. Then on our channel, just 1 more generation and another mutation occurs. Okay? So if you're coming down from this side, me and my son are here. We got a mutation here about 1939. That's probably me maybe my father. One of the other of us, but it don't matter. It don't happen to know who Joseph's daddy is. So we don't worry about that. We come on up, and here's a mutation here. That's either my great-grandfather or my grandfather, given the date. It's about 1881. Winfield Scott was born in 1858. So we think maybe that's Winfield Scott. We going up here. Now here, we divide it out. Here's Joseph Denton line. Where's Joseph Denton's? Yeah. Here's Joseph Denton lines. Troy gave us DNA. We knew he goes up to Joseph Denton. I'm from Francis Marion. 2 lines there, so guess who this is? Joseph. This mutation right here is Joseph. Now, how does that help us? Not at all. What we've got to find out is somebody above Joseph get a proven line down by paper documentation and then DNA test them to prove it. So, here's what we've done on that so far. There's 3 guys, Henry, William, and John. These are real guys identified by land deeds. They come into North Carolina, Putnam County. William takes a land grant that says it includes the improvement made by Henry and John. A couple years later, William sells that land to Henry. And by the way, they're also dragging chains on surveys for each other and witnessing documents for each other. So Henry, William, and John, I jump across a little bitty creek that says they're related to each other. Now, if I want to jump a bigger creek, I say they're brothers. Or I'll choose one and say, he's the daddy and these 2 are sons. You know, I can do that, but here's what I know. Here's what I believe. Since they've got all this land deed activity amongst each other, I think they're related. It's possible three different Robertses could have came into the same holler and started doing business, and they're totally different Robertses. Not likely. So these 3, I say, are related. Now, William goes to Kentucky. And about 10 years later, he comes back and sells his land in North Carolina, which is the land that William, Henry, and John had. So we know that the William that went to Kentucky is this same William that's related to Henry and John. And we know by DNA that he's our relative. So therefore, we're connected also to Henry and John. Very small creek to get over. I don't even say jump in a creek to do that. So what I'm currently doing is I want to find Henry and John, all their kids, bring them down through the kids' and so on and so forth until I find a man that I can do the DNA test. And I do that DNA test and he goes back to Henry. And if he happens to come through, well, he won't come through Joseph, but he'd come in here in the side somewhere. But I can pin them down. I also think this guy here is named Henry. I'll tell you why. Our folks in here, they had a strong following of the tradition of the naming patterns. First son is named for the father's father. Second son is named for the mother's father. First daughter for the mother's mother. Second daughter for the father's mother. They followed that very closely. And so, we're told by oral history that Joseph's daddy was named William. Just oral history. Maybe true, maybe not. But guess what he named his first son? William. So it adds validity to that a little bit. William names his first son George Henry. George is his wife's father's name, and we believe Henry is his father's name, you see. He killed 2 birds with 1 stone, and you'll see that happening quite a bit. William here, who everybody on the internet is trying to make this Henry his daddy. I don't believe it, but anyway, he names his first son Henry, and it just goes on down. So this William, Henry, John here, that's who we are. And so I'm hoping to prove 2 more generations, maybe 3 there. And then where I'll be? Another dead end. You'll never get there. Now, I know we come from Japhet. Japhet, some of you say. You know I'm talking about Japhet. Now, he's way on back here. You know this guy named Noah? There's Ham, Shem, and Japhet. My DNA proves I have no Ham in me and I have no Shem in me. I'm 100% Japhet. And I suspect that a lot of you are the same thing. So Japhet got off the boat there in Mount Ararat. He comes across the Caucasus, or whatever. Where's the Caucasus? Anyway, he comes across northern Europe there and over into England. And then about, 1500 or so, he gets in England and starts reproducing there. But we're never going to get back to Japhet. There's not enough documentation. Now, some people say, well, the DNA will eventually get us there. I don't know. Artificial intelligence and all that, I don't know what to believe anymore. I should have told you this too. This is the generations. About every 25 years is a generation. Now, that's getting broader now because the kids don't get married until they're over 24. This is my youngest grandson back here. He's 24 and he hasn't reproduced yet. He identifies as a male. He identifies as a man, but I don't know what's wrong with him. But I'm trying to help him. And by the way, you say you don't have favorite grandkids? He's my favorite grandson. My favorite granddaughter gotten here yet?
Not yet.
Okay, I got my favorite granddaughter, favorite grandson is going to be here today. And I don't know the others, they don't keep touch with me, so I don't know what they're doing. Anyway, I have favorites, I don't care about y'all. Where am I?
Generational, 25.
So this is generations.
You're on Mount Ararat.
Y'all probably figured that out by now. But you can tell a lot by the naming patterns. But when you look at just the naming patterns, you do have to jump a creek to say that's a fact. But you look over here and they got names like Shadrach and Galen and, those kind of names. And over here we have John, Henry, and William. I mean, we stick with the Anglo-Saxon names. And this guy here was a Tory. He left the United States and went to England. Left his wife here. He had a plantation and slaves. He goes to England, comes back. The wife sells everything. He comes back and has a court case trying to reclaim his slaves and land. He lost, so he goes to Kentucky. But in any case, he was a Tory. I know what I haven't covered yet. NPE. Who knows what an NPE is? Okay. I could use more technically precise language, but NPE stands for non-parental event. If your daddy is somebody other than you think he is because your mom fooled around on him, that would be a non-parental event. Or maybe you're adopted, and there's lots of adoptions, and there's some that are just taken in. All kinds of ways that you could be. You might think your last name is such and such, and that is your last name on your birth certificate and your parents' last name. But when you genetically test, you find out you're a Roberts. That'd be a bitter pill for some to swallow, wouldn't it? But anyway, Jesse Adams and Mike Sturgill are NPEs coming from this line here. And I've talked to Sturgill quite a bit. He's convinced that it's Galen Roberts. And I think he's right. And Galen had Shadrach. Shadrach had another kid named Galen. And so in 1881, in the Critical Fork shootout, this is documented in the newspapers, in Wise County, Virginia, which is right on the border of Kentucky, the Robertses and two other families are going to have a turkey shoot on New Year's Day. This fourth family that had a dance earlier in the summer, this fourth family had a contest with one of these families over this red-headed woman. Don't give me her name. They don't give me her name. The newspaper account says a red-headed woman. Oh, I'd like to know who she was. So word comes that this family's coming up to kill the guy they had to fight over the woman, right? And I almost see this from the newspaper account. It says they come riding in to where the turkey shoot was with guns blazing. They jumped off their horse and everybody's shooting. 5 of them killed, including the other Galen, over a red-headed woman. Beth, I know you used to be red-headed. You wasn't there in 1881? Anyway, I don't mean to say the Robertses were rough people, but like I said last night when I was praying for supper, we had a few blemishes here and there. We were not as righteous and holy as we'd like people to think we are. But anyway, so of course that's why we've never had anything like that happen over here. We didn't kill people over women. Well, maybe John Harrison did, but Francis Marion, he has 6 extra kids, non-parental events. Francis Marion Roberts, 6 non-parental events. 3 with Amanda Martin. A lot of you from this local area know Olin Martin used to be the principal of the school. He's not a Martin, he's a Roberts. Sorry. It's just a fact. And so that came from Francis Marion. They had 3 more from a McCulley woman. They went to North Alabama, picked cotton or something. So, what's that got to do with DNA? Nothing. It's just got a trail I got off on. Because I'm finished with DNA and I haven't filled my hour yet. My daughter's going to protect me. You have a question?
Yes. Can you talk about, I noticed in this little line, some of them have middle names. And we don't seem to have middle names. Can you give the history of...
That's another thing that people on the internet, bless their heart, they want everybody to have a middle name because we have middle names now, but every one of you here probably has a middle name. In colonial America, the British law, which we were under from Britain, said that commoners can't have middle names. So if you were born before the Civil War, like several of these were, you didn't have a middle name. And for whatever reason, people will just keep trying to attach a middle name to them. Now, it could be that you had a commoner who just said, I don't care what the law is, I'm going to give them a middle name. But that didn't happen very often. Now, after the Revolution, we can have middle names now. And so they started slowly, they quickly caught on middle names. So if you got an ancestor in your tree born before the Revolution, don't be surprised if they don't have a middle name, and don't try to give them one. And for those of you, where's Connie? Where's Connie? Pass this on to your daughter, because I sent her an email, she ignores me. This guy's name is not William Bailey, and he is not Joseph's daddy. His name is William. He lived next door to a William Bailey in North Carolina. He's born before the Revolution. He don't have a middle name. He comes to Kentucky. He goes back to North Carolina and sells his land to his neighbor, William Bailey. They were close. He goes back to Kentucky and names his son William Bailey Roberts. Okay? Now, people on the internet say, oh, the son is named William Bailey Roberts and his name is William. The son must be Junior. So they put Junior on his name, then they go up and put Bailey on his name. That's jumping the Mississippi River. You can't do that. His name is William. His son is William Bailey. And there's not a single document that I can find, and I've challenged others to show me one, where his name has a Bailey on it, or where his son has a Junior to it. So that's the kind of things people do, wanting to get back so they came in on the Mayflower, you know? I'm sorry. We didn't come in on the Mayflower. No, Roberts is on the Mayflower. So this guy over here, John Martin, bless his heart, he told me, I don't want to hear from you again. I said, okay. He's decided this church over in England, built in 1200 something, with Roberts's, it was the Roberts Church or whatever. He's decided that all Robertses come from that guy. And he now wants to bring that down here and prove to us that all of us are descended from that nobility, the royal guy over there that has a big church in his name and all that. He's foolish. But he told us how foolish we were. But anyway, a lot of that on the internet. If you're doing it, stop. And don't believe everything else you read on there. I don't know what it is about the human nature. I guess you believe like me, we're born fallen. We have this sinful nature and various beliefs about how you deal with that. One of the things that we have with that sinful nature is we want to be special. You know, that's where Adam and Eve went wrong. They wanted to be like God, right? So we want to be lifted up above others. We want to be special compared to others. And so we want to be nobility, or we want to land on the Mayflower. We want to come down the trail with Daniel Boone. We want to build, whatever. We're not. They could not read or write, most of them. Check the census records. They couldn't read or write. Like our liberal friends out in California. Anyone here from California? Good, you're talking about them a lot. Our liberal friends out in California, they perceive us as ignorant, illiterate, incestuous moonshiners. Now, there's some truth in every stereotype, right? But anyway, they're pretty smart people. They were smart and wise, but they were not educated. Not educated, hardworking and honest, probably. Other questions about DNA? As you had your quota. Go ahead.
So
She's trying to show me up.
I know a lot of some of the people have been contacted through lines, which is connecting DNA to family trees. Can you explain what that truly means when we reach out on through lines?
Everybody takes the DNA test and it comes up, you're a match. And through lines shows you how you're matched. But through lines is based 100% entirely on the tree that I put on there and the tree you put on there and the tree you put on there. And a lot of those trees aren't worth the paper they're printed on. And so our through lines is pretty good. I agree with most of it, but there's a couple on there like, where'd you come from? And I try to talk to them, but don't. Through line says your fourth cousins. You got to check it out a little bit to make sure that whoever put theirs on there is accurate. You know yours is accurate 100%, but theirs might not be. Does that explain it enough?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes.
So, does the DNA show what country besides England? Is it definitely England where they migrated?
Yeah, there's ethnicity. My ethnicity is about 30% Scotch, whatever you want to say. About 30% English and Northern Europe. When I say Northern Europe, I'm talking about the Guernsey Islands and Normandy, and that, and the Low Countries maybe. 10% Irish, 10% Scandinavian, and the rest of it other. No ham and no shem. Not that I'm racist or anything like that, but I'm pure-blooded Japhet. That's good, ain't it, Phil?
So you got a good mixture in there.
Yeah, I mean, and so where are we from? We think Joseph's forefather, his grandfather maybe, or great-grandfather, one or the other, came from England because the oral history says they landed in Charleston, South Carolina in 1742 in 3 ships. That's oral history from one source. And he was in his 90s, no offense, Doris, he was in his 90s when he gave that information. And so, oral history is good. Oral history is always partially right, but almost never 100% right. And so you got to say, okay, what part was right, what part was not. I think he came from England. I think the boat sailed from England. Did they come over from Liverpool and get on the, or they come over from Ireland to Liverpool and get on the boat? I don't know. What is an Englishman? No such thing. The Anglo-Saxons and the Jutes came over from Germany, and the Scandinavian countries came down and invaded, and William the Conqueror came over from Normandy, and they're just a homogenation of all that. That's what an Englishman is. And so the DNA, you can go back a little further and say, well, and I'm waiting for them to get to this point where you got a lot of Saxon blood in you, or you got a lot of this or that in you. But I just really want to know who Joseph's daddy is. I believe it's this guy, William. I believe his daddy's Henry, and I think Henry's a Henry Jr., and Henry Sr.'s up there. So I think in another year, when you come back next year, I'll jump the Mississippi River if I have to, without something.
Just an answer to that question about ethnicity, or an expansion of that answer. Ethnicity depends upon how long ago you want to talk. Where your family is from 100 years ago is different than where the family was from 300 years ago. I got my first ethnicity from Ancestry.com. My maternal grandfather and grandmother are from Lebanon. Family's been there for 8 years. My first DNA ancestry came back. I didn't have any Arabic, any Lebanese, or anything in my ancestry. I had Greek, Roman, Hungarian, invaded and occupied for hundreds of years by the Romans and hundreds of years by the Greeks. So they were going back farther. I think a lot of their customers or clients complained about the DNA estimates, ethnicities that they were getting. And all of a sudden one day I get a new update. I didn't turn in any new DNA, and I'm 50% error. You know, from
you're good.
0 to 50%. Because most of us doing DNA can only get back 4, 5, 6, 7 generations. And so that's where we're most interested in. And I think they've changed.
Well, they're getting more and more samples for one thing,
That too.
which makes it more accurate.
Huh?
I thought he was talking about Lebanon, Tennessee.
We know that area was once ruled by the Romans for 300 or 400 years.
A lot of it.
Prior to that, the Greeks were